Morning everyone. Okay, start of a new day. Got a few things on the list today. Had a little bit of a look on eBay for a 64mm hole saw. I still haven't ruled me mate out for asking him for one, but I thought, well, if he doesn't have one, at least I know where I can get one. And so I'm going out to get a price on one of them. If it's cheap enough, I'll just buy it. I can't be bothered. I'd rather just get this thing finished now. I got a delivery today of some wheel nuts for those new wheels. These are they're acorn style nut, but with a bullet head on the end. They look really nice. The bullet heads don't come out past the hole in the rim, so they sort of sit inside the rim, and they look really nice. So there's a little bit of 50-60 style there on the late model rim, so I'm really happy about that. Another thing that I was looking for yesterday was a CD player and amp that I had that I pulled out of a car that I sold last year before I bought the SUV that you've seen in a couple of vids. Think I could find this bloody thing? I searched everywhere. I ripped the house apart. I finally found it. It was in a place I didn't even know I put it, but the box was even clearly marked with what was inside it. But anyway, I get this torch on so you guys can see. It goes in. Fits perfect. Now I haven't got a like the tin liner in there that you would normally, have, that you would slide this into. I do have one inside. I haven't bought it out yet, but as that sits, it's pretty good. I'm going to try and get behind it, and I'm going to show you how much room I got. I swear this is like another thing that I've just fluked it on. It's like this console. Oh, sorry guys, my nerve in my back is still absolutely killing me. So the physio I have on Friday for my shoulder, I don't think it's going to be for my shoulder, it's going to be to get this nerve back in. So it's like this console was meant to go in this goddamn truck. So have a look at that. Absolutely heaps of room. So I can gain access to my power plug here. I've got this for fastening the stereo in if I want to, and I've got access from the back here. I don't have to piss fart around with anything. I've got access to my RCA plugs and my aerial. I thought it was going to interfere, but nah, it's going to work out grouse, guys. And it's only, it is sitting up against the heater there, but that's perfect. The front of it's perfect. It doesn't need to go back any further. Bit better shot at this bar. This is the white bar I was talking about yesterday. It actually snapped off down here in two parts. It snapped right on the shaft. So left side fell off and then right side fell off. So I glued all that back together and glued it onto the shaft. It wasn't a rotating pivot point. It was a fixed pivot. Sorry, well, it's not a pivot point, but it was a fixed point. When it got shoved on, it didn't rotate. It wasn't meant to rotate, so it didn't matter that I glued the white bit to the shaft. So it all still works, as you can see. You see, it moves from the top there. It doesn't move from the bottom. It rotates. This shaft rotates through this side of the hole, but it's actually fixed into the white bit. So there you go. I don't want to break it again, so I've got to be bloody careful. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave that now. I'm going to the Wreckers to get one or two of these as a spare. But yeah, you might be able to see up in here as well. Sorry guys,
can't move. It's bloody nerve. But gauge is all going really well. I've just spoken to a place, a gauge place, not too far from where I live. I mentioned it in the video yesterday. Place called Howard Instruments. Now I spoke to the old girl there. She's been there forever and a day. Knows everything. Oh God, knows everything there is to know about gauges. And I spoke to her about doing 6 volt to 12 volt conversions. She goes, no worries, cheap as chips. It's not an expensive process. She goes, we can do that for you. I said, what about refurbishing all the faces? She said, well, we don't do the computer scanning like one of our competitors does. There's another place over the other side of town, and they actually obviously scan the faces and they cut them out via computer program. She said nothing against them. She said, but eventually over time they fade. Well, everything fades. These ones are faded. So yeah, I might even try and find somebody that I know that's good with computers. There's not many of us, but I might try and find somebody and see if they can scan those and print them off. My printer's rat shit. It's supposed to be photo quality printing, but it's not gonna give me what I need for there. So, and whoever I get to scan these is obviously gonna have to fix up, all the lines. There's little lines that run down here to sort of blend in with the fascia panel. Fascia panel I have to treat as a separate thing, obviously. They may still be able to scan this and cut something out to stick over the top of it. At least, if it gets stuck over the top, the original will be protected anyway by the sticker. So, I've got a couple little options. I'm going to take this unit down tomorrow and have this lady look at it and see what it will cost me for a 12 volt conversion. So, and while she's at it, I'll tell her what things are going into, that it's going into a Ford V8, and that way she can price up all the sender units and all that sort of stuff for me. So I've got a total overall package price to get the whole gauge system working. So yeah, I'm not going to commit to anything tomorrow. I'm just going to take it to her so that she can see what I got, to be able to give me a price on what it's going to cost them to do the job. And then yeah, I'll ring these other two people, see what they can do, and then I will ask around my computer savvy friends and see if any of them have scanning capabilities where they can actually reproduce these stickers. And if not, then I'll go to the other place on the other side of Melbourne, and I'll just, I could get the clocks done there. I could get the 12 volt conversion done there and the stickers too. So so there's probably 4 or 5 options open to me on these gauges. Oh, and the 6th one is just don't put these in and just buy new gauges. So but yeah, very happy the way all this has come out, So, aircon, it's all going to work. Heater's all going to work. Everything's good. So it looks like the CD player is going to fit beautifully. It's got an input there for MP3 or God knows what else they run these days, iPods and things like that. For me, just putting a disc in there is good enough for me. This has got provision to run a stacker. You know, I'm old school. So you can always put a stacker behind the passenger seat. So yeah, I'll leave it here because I've got a heap of stuff to do today, guys, and I'll pick up on this vid a bit later. Okay guys, I'm back from the auto salvage yard. Got some stuff today, pretty happy. Kicking myself again because there's probably, what was there, three parts that I could have got out of that Festiva I wrecked years ago, but all up it cost me bugger all to buy what I bought today, and I enjoyed the time out in the sun and it was good. So I'll show you what I got anyway. Anyway, these were the wheel nuts I bought for the wheels. So I got 20 of those sent from Hong Kong. They meet Australian standards, which is good. So I got them for $35 delivered. Should have taken this out of the Festiva way back when, because I do need it to go in there to fit properly. So I managed to scavenge one of these with the plug, and it's got the light in it. So now I can complete that as just, you know, because you've got to have that. You've got to have an indicator for each gear. It's a must. The accelerator pedal as well. I have got one that I've modified and I was going to use that, but then, you know, when I was taking this out of the Festiva, I thought, hang on, that pedal looks great. Why can't I grab that one? Because it's made to fit flat up against a flat surface, and it's got an adjuster on it, and it, you know, it's a metal pad. So this thing can be bent, it can be welded, I can adjust it, I can do whatever I want with it, really. Spring loaded, so it's not relying totally on a return spring from the carburetor for the pedal to come back. I got that little plastic linkage that I snapped. So I got one of them. I managed to get some more cable for the handbrake. The casing is perished on it, but I'm not particularly bothered about that because the rest of the cable, well, probably 90% of the cable that runs off the rear brake drums is sheathed like this, but obviously there's a small part where it is going to join up to this cable where it's not protected, and it'll be the same deal with this one. I can always put heat shrink over it. This is only going to be short, probably only, God, geez, I don't know, maybe 200-300 mil, which is nothing, but I made sure I got plenty of it, so I got a bit to play with. So now I can get, eventually when everything goes back on, the body goes back onto the chassis, I can actually set the handbrake up, and I've got plenty of cable to do it. Now these sun visors, I went into the wrecking yard and I found a 4x4 crew cab with grey rectangular sun visors in it, and I thought, yep, that's perfect. It'll go with the grey in the cab, you know, with all the grey components, grey console and bits and pieces. So I unscrewed all those, and then I had a walk around, and I found, I think it was an Mazda MX-5 or something like that. It had no badges on it. It had these tiny little sunshades in it. They don't require anything to sort of support them in the middle because they're so goddamn light. This one, and they actually, rather than
bolting up from the side near the windscreen post. They're actually mounted in the middle like that. This was a little convertible type thing, so they mounted there, and then your mirror would sit obviously between the two of them. So yeah, this one's good. This has got nothing on it, it's plain black. This one's got a warning on it about an airbag, which I won't have, and it's got something about electronic controlled manual transmission, something like that. But it doesn't matter. I can get rid of this stuff. So yeah, all I'll do is I'll bleach it out, bleach it right out, get rid of all the yellow and the red and everything like that, and same on this side. I'll be able to bleach all that. And when I say bleach, I don't mean actually bleach it white. I'll be able to use some like nail polish remover or some prep wash or something like that with a scourer, and be able to scour that off. I've done it before, and it works quite good. And if they need a coat of vinyl paint, so be it, you know. But yeah, I suppose I can mount these any way I want, really. Even though they did mount like that in the car, these mounted in the centre, and the mirror was there. There's no reason I couldn't mount them the other way around. So yeah, so that little score there. So the two visors, the selector for the console, and the pedal, which is all I paid for, that come to $25, and I decided to throw that in for myself, and the cable as well. So I think I've done alright. Done nothing on the truck today. So yeah, I'm going to start now. Cheers. Hi everyone, just sorting through a few things today. A little bit cold outside. Haven't made a start in the garage at all today on the truck, but I had been doing some other things. I went down to the local gauge shop that does speedos and all that sort of stuff, to see if they could convert this original gauge cluster for me. Now, talking to an old woman there, her and her husband have owned the business since 1971, and she's one of those people that's a walking encyclopedia. She says that there's a couple of gauges that could be salvaged, and there's a couple that sort of can't be salvaged, because now I'm running a later model engine, and it's just, yeah, it's not going to work. Like the amps for, you know, she was saying, unless you're running a magneto, I think she said, or a generator, this won't work. Even if they can't convert it to run an alternator, because it will read incorrect. The charge is either positive or positive 30 amps, so that was no good. The oil pressure is running off like a pipe, a tube, so that would be like wouldn't be electronic, it'd be manual pressure. The speedo, the problem is that the sleeve that comes out of the back of the speedo, where the cable goes in, that is hard up against the ducting for the air conditioning. If you take that sleeve off and measure the gauge depth, a modern electronic speedo is actually shallower, so I will actually have space between the back of a new gauge and the ducting. Now, temperature that it's hard to tell what the hell it was. It's definitely not, it wasn't electronic. It looks like it also worked off some sort of pipe as well. So that was sort of ruled out. And the fuel, yeah, no problem. So, you know, there's 3 gauges out of the 5 that they could get going. But also, again, this is in miles per hour. I can't get the car engineered in miles per hour here in Australia. It's got to be in kilometres, which is a real hassle trying to find a set of gauges in the States. In metric, there are some which I'm looking at in the Dolphin brand. Now, the club president of our Hot Rod Club, he recently fitted a 6 gauge cluster into his 32 Ford Roadster, and they look nice. I think I'm going to go with just a 2 gauge, so it'll be speedo on one, and the other clock has 4 gauges in it, so temp, oil, water and fuel, from what I remember. So I'm going to keep it simple. That was only a 3 gauge cluster. I'm just going to keep it down to 2. The gauges aren't as big as that speedo. They're as big as the clocks or the gauges on the left and right hand side, which is 3 3/8. So I couldn't get anything in a 4-inch. That speedo is just actually it's over 4-inch. It measures in at about 110 millimeters, so probably 4 3/8, I guess. Yeah, but anyway, that's no good. So I'm going to look at buying those gauges next week. I just want to see what the guys in the club think. I know it's my choice, but one of the gauge sets I'm looking at has both miles and kilometers per hour printed on the face, but the more dominant speed reading around the outside of the face is in miles, and then kilometers is on the inside of that. Now, whether an engineer they should accept it. It's an accurate reading, but it's not. This is where they get technical. You know, they want the kilometers per hour to be more dominant than the miles per hour, and well, you just can't get it. You can't. They don't make it. You know, so. So yeah, I'll make, you know, I'll pass it around the table on Thursday night and see what the guys think, and if they've ever heard of anybody having troubles, or if they can give me the name of an engineer that I can call, because I haven't had an engineer look at the truck yet, because there's some talk that maybe I just get it registered, get it put on club reg, which means it doesn't have to go through full engineering. But I want to make this my daily driver when it's done. So on club reg, it limits me to 45 days or a maximum of 90 days if I buy a second permit. Technically, I'm only supposed to drive it to events and anything to do with the sport. Driving it to work is not to do with the sport, so you're a little bit limited on the club reg. So you know, I don't mind paying the $2,500 for the engineer's report. At least then, I can register it as a daily driver, and if there's any time in the future where I feel I'm not driving it regularly enough, I can always get it transferred over to street rod reg. It just needs a SR2 inspection done on it, and cost me about $250 to get that done. And because it was fully engineered in the first place, at any time I can swap it back from street rod registration or club registration to full registration without any issues. I just walk straight into Vic Roads and say, hey, I want to put this car back on full reg, and they don't need any inspection done on it, as far as I know, and from what I have been told by the gentleman that did the SR2 report for me a couple of years ago on the Chev. So, anyway, I've pulled a couple of things out today because I was actually looking for something else, and I just wanted to get these out to show you what I've got. If you remember in the last video, or the second last video that I posted, I was talking about the those H4 headlights, those rectangular headlights that I bought, and what I was going to do with them. So this is the original 1936 headlights. It's actually printed on there, 1936. Starting to fade out now, but yeah, so what you do is keep everything the way it is, and you just run the angle grinder just across. You take this out, of course, and you just run the angle grinder off the top there to open the top of that up, and then you take the part you cut off the later model headlight and you sit it over the top here. You prep this surface, and you what do they call it? Like, you flux it all up and get your solder or your solder to melt on there. Then you get your other the part you cut off the new or later model headlights, and you sort of prep that as well. You flux that inside, and then you stick that down onto there, and with a butane torch you just put light heat onto it until you see all the solder running down the sides, and then that should actually be stuck to this, and then you can mount your H4 light in there and then send them off to the chrome platers. So that's the idea for those. I've got a few bits and pieces. I've got a couple of these still in the headlight buckets. I referred to these as headlight buckets rather than reflectors in the other videos. Hopefully you knew what I meant. I just get my words messed up sometimes, that's all. But yeah, I've got a few of these clips still in the headlight buckets themselves. There's the old original 6-volt globes. I've got some clips here. I've got no idea how all this goes back together. Also, there's the stainless steel for the grille surround. It never went right down here, or it may have, but I didn't have the piece. I think it may have, and then it would have had a round hole here for the crank handle. So this is probably something I'm going to have to make up. Whether I want to put the crank handle hole back in it, I don't know yet. But the grill insert has to be all remade. There's some stuff here that I'm not going to try and straighten it, because if I do, basically, I'm going to fuck it. So, I'm going to take this to somewhere that my camera works terrible today as well. I'm going to take it to somewhere that can do it properly for me. This one's got like a little S kink in it, so we get that taken out. And they're all different lengths, because as the grill narrows, these get shorter. There's a couple of good ones, like the bottom ones are really good. That's a really good one too. That's a really good one. So there's only two that have any damage on it. The centerpiece is in really, really nice condition. It is crimped here, but that was to take the bottom piece there, and the rest of it, from what I remember, I've got one little graze or dint there. I've got the piece for that. The piece that sits into the opening in the top of the radiator cowl or grill surround or whatever you want to call it, sort of comes over the edge like it does on the 33 Fords, I think. and you can see there it's recessed, so that part comes over and it sits like that to finish it off. This one looks very good. It's one little tiny pin dent there, but the rest of it's fairly good. And I was so lucky that I've got this little sleeve here at the bottom, so that worked out good. So yeah, I've got that. Went and bought a 63mm hole saw. I bought one yesterday, but I think they call it the arbor bit that goes through the hole. Turned out that it was, the hole in the one I bought was too big. But I didn't know that until I opened the packet, because there was nothing stamped on it to say what size arbor it took, and there's nothing actually on this packet either that says what size arbor it takes. So I took it back. I actually tried to use the arbor, and I sort of tried a test cut to see if it was going to work, but it's just too out of balance. It didn't mark it up. Surprisingly, it didn't mark up the teeth at all. I don't know why. Bloody good good hole saw. So anyway, if I had damaged it, I would have kept it. I probably just would have bought the arbor to suit that one, but there were no marks on it, so I put it back in the packet. I took it back, got a refund, and then bought this one. And the lady was kind enough in the store that she opened it up for me, because I hate just doing that. I see people pull stuff apart and they just, you know, they just leave it dumped. They don't ask. But yeah, my arbor screws in there perfectly. So yeah, it was $10 more for this particular brand. And yeah, it's all good. So now I can cut the holes in the dashboard. One of the other things I wanted to show you, I think I mentioned that I've got a little ID plaque coming from India. love India too. As I said, those Asian countries are great. Now up here, I've got my original Studebaker ID plate, which came off the dashboard, and as you can clearly see, it's a J5, 1936 J5. They're all the original tags that were on the firewall. You might not be able to pick it up in the video, but all that white writing on there basically is all the countries that they distributed this truck to back in 1936. There's some countries on there that are actually no longer referenced to as those countries. For instance, Ceylon is now Sri Lanka. So yeah, I want to keep this in a frame, and I want to take that serial number off this plate, and I want to stamp that onto the new ID plate. And when it does come time for registration and engineering, I will take these plates with me in that frame, and I'll show the engineer or whoever at Vic Roads what they need to know, and yeah, I shouldn't have any issues there. So that's been the day so far. Nothing else has turned up from overseas. I'm still waiting. So I'm gonna leave it here, guys. I'm not gonna bore you anymore, but I just thought I'd show you this, because I know I've mentioned that I had all this stuff, like in the very first videos, video 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4, mentioned I had all the surrounds, but I've never ever showed you, and I needed to sort of show you this too, so that you knew where I was going with those late model lights with the H4 conversion. So yeah, these things are unbelievable. It's hard to even read it in this light, but it says, what's it say? Well, the most I can make out is they were made in Cincinnati, Ohio. yeah, I've got to get it in the right light. I just can't see with the reflection. But yeah, made in Cincinnati. So if I broke one of them, I don't know what my chances are of getting one. I know there's a guy over there in the States that does all this old headlight glass. I found him, and I know somebody else in Germany who recently finished off a 1936 Plymouth rat rod, Roger. Big shout out to you, Roger. Thank you for your inspiration over the last year and a half. You got me back into doing my truck. Also, Luke from Tinman to Kustoms. Thank you. Wild Talkie was an incredible ride, especially with it being a Chev of the same year and same, same as my 29 Chev Roadster, although yours was a sedan. It was nice to see somebody actually doing something different with a Chev, so that was great. And also to Nathan at Nathan's Garage, also another inspirational dude on YouTube. He's working on his Fat Betty project at the moment. He's done a couple of Crown Vic chassis swaps, putting those under F trucks. So thank you, Nathan, and I hope that bastard that took your money, that ripped you off, I hope you get him, mate. Bloody thief. So to those three guys, thank you. You've inspired me after a couple of years of not being able to get my project to where I wanted it, simply because of court cases and legal battles and stuff. And yeah, you gave me the three of you gave me the inspiration to get moving on the truck again. You pulled me out of my hole. So thanks, guys, and yeah, I'm sure I'll speak to you at a later date. Oh, and if any of you want to come to Australia for a holiday, you're more than welcome to stay at my place. You can help me finish the truck off too. Okay, guys, see you later.